What is the authority in science? Well, that question could be answered on several different levels. We could talk about the personal level first. In terms of each person, they get to choose what they will believe and what they don't believe about science. And so there is a personal authority in science, and that's you. You get to decide if you like the science or if you think it's scientific or it's not. However, that's going to have absolutely no impact whatsoever on the scientific community itself. Then you have the scientific community. What is the authority? And more and more, there's the idea, as I mentioned before, science is what scientists do, which is giving a freedom for the scientists themselves to define what scientific truth is. You see this in culture many times where they talk about the consensus of the scientific community as if that's some kind of validation for it. However, there's all kinds of political issues and personal issues involved in that can create tremendous bias. But there is a concept today that the authority in science is the consensus of the scientists themselves. Ultimately, though, the ultimate authority in science, as it stands historically, as science has developed, and as it works today, is reproducibility. In other words, you have to be able to reproduce the results. So if a scientist claims that he's discovered some new phenomenon, a few years ago there was something called cold fusion. You could create a fusion reaction at room temperature, and supposedly someone had done that. And it wasn't the consensus of the scientific community that they just decided, do we think it happened or not? Rather, they went to their laboratories and they began trying to reproduce cold fusion in the laboratory, which they could not. And so the scientists that did the interview with the newspapers about discovering it were fired from their positions, and they'll never work again. And it's because they couldn't reproduce the results. So the ultimate authority in science is reproducibility in nature. And that raises the question, why are things reproducible in nature? Why is there order in nature? How can it be discovered? And why is that uniform throughout space and time? As I mentioned, that's a faith assumption. No one has an answer for it. But the founders of modern science did have an answer for it. The uniformity in nature, the fact that you could find truth through reproducing results in nature, came because there was a faithful God that created the world, and He sustains the world, and because God is faithful, the results in nature are also faithful. And so the ultimate authority in terms of what undergirds the foundational aspects of reproducibility in nature is essentially the faithfulness of God. And the Bible makes that very clear, that if God breaks His covenant with the day and the night, then He'll also break His covenant with David. And so we see His faithfulness all around us. Great is His faithfulness throughout nature and how it functions in what we call natural law. I remember when I first started teaching science in my syllabus, I put, we will explore the natural laws which govern the universe. And there came a time where I realized I don't believe that. I need to revise that, because I do not believe that natural laws govern the universe. I believe that God governs the universe, and He does it in a very faithful manner. And His faithfulness are what we call these consistencies, these reproducibilities that we see in the world around us.